So this class, I was going to do something like a special or whatever, behind our forefathers, right? I was going to take a couple of our forefathers and kind of dissect them, what they did wrong, what they did right, and, ultimately what happened to them, right? Because a lot of times in the scriptures, it tells us the ending of our forefathers, what if they died on the right side of the Lord or the wrong side of the Lord. Today we're going to go over Joab. Do you know who Joab is? Joab was the general of King David's army. So this is good because this is history. You're going to catch some of the history of King David. When you talk about Joab, you're also talking about King David because they go hand in hand. So just bear with us real quick. And if you got questions, raise your hand. Give me that in Romans.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
So we go through the scriptures. All the scriptures is given for the edification is the word I was looking for. So we go back and look through these scriptures. We could read about our forefathers. We could read, of course, the Proverbs. We read the law to better our living situation, living condition, right? We're going over forefather Joab. Give me 1 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 13. We're going to start with his genealogy. What line did he come from?
This is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 2 and verse 13.
Come on.
And Jesse begot his firstborn, Eliab, and Abinadab the second, and Shema the third, Nethalu the fourth, Radai the fifth, Ozim the sixth, David the seventh.
Read.
Whose sisters were Zariah and Abigail, and the sons of Zeruiah and Abishai.
The sons of
Zariah, Abishai, and Joab, and Asiel, 3.
So this is the genealogy of Joab. Joab was the son of Zariah, which was King David's sister. So if this is King David's sister's son, he would be King David's nephew. Yes, this is his nephew. That's important to know. Give me 1 Chronicles chapter 18, verse 14. 1 Chronicles chapter 18, verse 14.
This is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 18 and verse 14. So David reigned over all Israel.
He was king.
And executed judgment and justice among all his people.
Read.
And Joab, the son of Zariah, was over the host.
That's really all I wanted. He was over the host. He was over the military. He was the head general over the military under King David. That was his position. That was his occupation. That would be like, General Eisenhower, if you would think about today in terms of what kind of status he had. Give me 1 Chronicles chapter 27, verse 34. We're just getting a background on who Joab was.
This is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 27 and verse 34.
Come on.
And after Ahithophel was Jehoiada, the son of Benaiah, and Abiathar, and general of King's army was Joab.
There again, another precept. The head or the general over the military was Joab. Now, Joab had traits. We're going to go over his traits. He was a master of he was a master of war. He was courageous, and he also had a wrath problem. But give me his master of the army, his strategic genius. Give me 1 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 1. This
is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 20 and verse 1. And it came to pass that after the year was expired, at the time that the kings go out to battle, Joab led forth the power of the army and wasted the country of the children of Ammon, and came and besieged
Rabbah. So he came and he wasted Ammon. Ammon are the Japanese. He basically destroyed them. Read.
But David tarried at Jerusalem, and Joab smote Rabbah and destroyed it.
It said he besieged Rabbah. What does besieging mean? Besieging means he cut off all the resources to that city. He cut them off. To further prove that, give me Deuteronomy 28. Because this happened to us when we broke God's commandments. But in war, this was a strategic tactic to break down your enemies. Start at verse 52.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates.
So why do we go here? We're going here to prove what besieging is, what the act of besieging a city is. Read.
Until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee.
And this is the result of what happens when something is besieged to the people inside of the gate. This is what the people are forced to do. Read.
And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee.
Okay, now go back to that scripture. Go back to 1 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 1. So Joab himself besieged the city to the point where all resources were cut off, to the point of the inhabitants of that land had to eat their own children. And that's how you break a city down in war. So it's an act of war. And him knowing how to do that shows how strategic he could be in war when it came to defeating the enemies of Israel. Read it again.
This is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 20 and verse 1.
And how ruthless and merciless that is. Read.
And it came to pass that after the year was expired, at the times that the kings go out to battle, Joab led forth the power of the army and wasted the country of the children of Ammon, and came and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried at Jerusalem, and Joab smote Rabbah and destroyed it.
Okay, so this shows you that he commanded the army, and King David didn't need to be there for him to be able to command the army and actually get the job done. So full trust was given to Joab over the army by King David. Give me 2 Samuel chapter 10, verse 6. We're going over his traits. This next trait is his courageousness, his courage. How courageous this man was, our forefather was.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 10 and verse 6. And when the children of Ammon saw, and they stank before David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Beth-Rahab and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 footmen, and the king Mahak, 1,000 men, and of Ishtob, 12,000 men. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of thine mighty men.
Read.
And the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array at the entering in of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah and of Rehob and of Ishtob and Makkah were by themselves in the field.
So it's about 32,000 men fighting against these men, against David. 32,000. Read.
When Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him before and behind, he chose of all the choice of men of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians.
So they had them cornered. They was front and in the back coming towards him. Read.
And the rest of the people he delivered into the hand of Abishai, his brother, his brother, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. And he said, if the Syrians be too strong for me, then thou shalt help me. But if the children of Ammon be too strong for thee, then I will come and help thee. Be of good courage, and let us play the men of our people, and for the cities of our God. And the Lord do that which seemeth him good.
Read verse 13.
Verse 13. And Joab drew nigh, and the people that were with him unto the battle against the Syrians, and they fled before him.
He put them to flight. They couldn't fight against him. These people was cornered. 32,000 was cornering this man. And he told his brother, he separated with his brother. He said, you take these men, I take these men. If they give you trouble, I'm going to come help you. If they giving me trouble, come help me. And they ran, the Syrians ran in front of them. Give me Proverbs 15 and 18.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 15 and verse 18. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife.
It said a wrathful man stir up strife. That's going to come into play with this man here in just a second. Let's just go over a few key points of the man's righteousness. Let's go over the righteousness of Joab. Give me 1 Chronicles chapter 21 and verse 1. This forefather wasn't all bad. You know, just like you could read some of them, some of the kings of Israel was bad from their birth. They were wicked from their birth. This man had some good qualities, but we're going to watch what overtook this man.
This is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 21 and verse 1. Mm-hmm. And Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. And David said to Joab and the rulers of the people, go, number Israel from Beersheba even to Dan, and bring the number of them to me, and I may know it. And Joab answered, the Lord make his people 100 times so many more as they be. But my lord the king, are they not all my Lord's servants?
So Joab right now is trying to talk King David out of it, because numbering the children of Israel is a sin. Read.
Why then doth my Lord require this thing? Why will he be a cause of trespass to Israel?
See, why will he be a cause of trespass to Israel? Esau tries to number us now through the census. Read.
Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab. Wherefore Joab departed and went throughout all Israel, and he came to Jerusalem.
So the point was, the king still told him to do it. He tried to talk him out of it, but he couldn't do it. Of course, he is under the subjection of the king. So you're going to do what the king tells you to do because he has authority over you. Read.
Verse 5. And Joab gave the sum of the number of the people unto David. And all they of Israel were 1,000,000 and 100,000 men that drew sword. And Judah was 460 and 10,000 men that drew sword. But Levi and Benjamin counted he not among them, for the king's word was abominable to Joab.
So he didn't number everybody. He left Judah and Benjamin out of it. So the number wasn't 100% accurate. He had to give a number to the king, because if he didn't come back with the number to the king, what his fate would have been? He would have been killed, right? Or he would have been in prison. He would have lost his stature. He would have lost everything. But read that last verse, verse 6.
Verse 6. But Levi and Benjamin counted he not among them, for the king's word was abominable to Joab.
Why was it abominable? Because it was against God's commandments to number the people. Give me, let me see, 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 15.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11 and verse 15. For it came to pass, when David was in Edom, and Joab, the captain of the host, was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom. For 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom.
So he cut off all the males of Edom in the land. Killed them. We don't know who Edom is today. Edom is the so-called white man. Joab. Of course, David sanctioned it, but Joab carried it out. And as you can see, this is going to be a constant continuance of what happens. David says something and Joab carries it out. So these are just righteous things that Joab did, right? He went to war, conquered his enemies, fought courageously, killed off the men of Edom in this particular land. Not all of them, of course, because of course they're still here today. But these are just things that he was able to do. But there was a turning point. Give me Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 24. Just like in this truth, we on fire, we carry out orders, we listen to the men above us, we listen to the men carrying out the orders of God. We follow order here, rank. And just like we do, he did. Read this, though.
This is Ezekiel chapter 18 and verse 24. But when the righteous turneth away from his righteousness and committeth iniquity and doeth according to all abominations that the wicked man doeth, shall he live? All his righteousness that he hath done shall not be mentioned. In his trespass that he hath trespassed, and in his sin that he hath sinned, and in them shall he die.
And this is the case of Joab. Yeah, he was righteous at one point, but he let sin rule him. And if sin rules us, whatever we did righteous, we could have taught super good on the street. We could have brought this whole side in to learn the commandments. But if our end is in sin, there's no remembrance of our righteousness when it comes to God. Right. Give me 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 8. What made Joab turn from being a righteous, courageous warrior over the whole army of Israel into a wicked man? Let's read it. You're going to read from 2 to 32. 2 Samuel chapter 8. 2 Samuel chapter 8. Chapter 2, excuse me. 2 Samuel chapter 2, start at verse 8, and you're going to read to verse 32.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 2 and verse 8.
Read.
But Abner, the son of Ner, captain of Saul's host, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over Mahanaim.
So I'm going to tell you what part of time we are right now. Saul is dead. He died in war. Jonathan died with him, the one that David loved. And he had a son called Ishbosheth that was still alive. They made him king in Saul's place. They didn't make David yet king over all Israel. Because remember, Samuel anointed David to be king when he was a kid, when he was still dealing with the sheep in the pasture. So it's not like common knowledge that David would be king over Saul. So Abner, which would be what Joab is to David, Abner is to Saul. So Abner is the king or the general over Saul's army. Abner makes Ishbosheth the king in Saul's place. That's where we're at. Read verse 8 again.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 2 and verse 8. But Abner, the son of Ner, captain of Saul's host, took
Ishbosheth,
the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim, and made him king over Gilead, and over the Asherites, and over Jezreel, and over Ephraim, and over Benjamin, and over all Israel. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and reigned 2 years.
So his reign was 2 years. We don't talk about this much. We say Saul and then David, right? But there's history about this man being king for 2 years. Read.
But the house of Judah followed David. And the time that David was king in Hebron, over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months.
So David was the king over the tribe of Judah only at this time. Saul's son reigned over all other tribes but Judah. David reigned over Judah. Read.
And Abner, the son of Ner, And the servants of Ishbosheth was the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gilead. And
Gibeon, read.
And Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servants of David went out and met together by the pool of Gideon.
So Joab and Abner, which are the two generals of the army, come at each other. Read.
And they sat down, the one on one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. And Abner said to Joab, let the young men now arise and play before us. And Joab said, let them arise.
The play there is fight. Let them fight before us. We're not going to fight. Us as old men, we ain't going to fight. We're going to let the young ones fight. It ain't going to be general on general over here. I got my crew right here. You got your young men right here. Y'all go ahead and let them fight it out. That's what the consensus of what's going on right now. Since you're late, sir, since you're late, ma'am, I'm going over the history of Joab, which is King David's general, the good and the ugly, and how he died, and what took him over, which was his anger and his wrath and his vengeance. He had a revenge spirit. He had a grudge. He kept a grudge, and the grudge ultimately killed him. Read on.
Then there arose and went over by number 12 of Benjamin, which pertained to Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 of the servants of David. And they caught every one his fellow by the head, and thrust his sword in his fellow's side.
Judah won the battle. It was 12 Judites and 12 Benjamites fighting, and the Judites won. Yeah, read.
So they fell down together. Wherefore that place was called,
You can skip it. Yeah, it's a long name. Go ahead.
which is in Gibeon. And there was a very sore battle that day, and Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel before the servants of David. And there was 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel.
Aziel, your name. It's your name, sir. It's spelled different, but it's your name. Aziel. Wow. Yeah, that's your name. That's literally your name. But go ahead.
And Aziel was the light of the foot of a wild roe. Wow.
He's fast. Aziel was a fast man. He had wheels. He could run.
Well, what do you know?
Read.
And Abishai pursued after
Aziel.
And Aziel pursued after Abner. And in going, he turned not to the right hand nor to the left from following Abner.
Meaning he went straight at Abner. Read.
Then Abner looked behind him and said, Art thou Aziel? And he answered, I am. And Abner said to him, Turn thee aside to thy right hand or to thy left, and lay thee hold on one of the young men, and take thee his armor. But Aziel would not turn aside from following him.
So Abner basically told him, fight one of these young men. You ain't ready for me. Stop following me. You ain't on my level yet. Aziel is Joab's brother, younger brother. Aziel thought he was on that level with Abner. Abner is the general of another army. Read.
And Abner said again to Aziel, Turn thee aside from following me. Wherefore should I smite thee to the ground? How then should I hold up my face to Joab thy brother?
He said, leave me alone or I'm going to kill you. And if I kill you, how would I ever look at your brother again? Remember, these are all brothers. We are all brothers. These are all the 12 tribes. There's just a dissension between who rules the kingdom at this point. There's still a level of respect there. So Abner gave him what, 3 opportunities? Mm-hmm. Leave me alone, because I could kill you. You know, I'm like that. That's what he's saying. I'm like that. Read.
Howbeit, he refused to turn aside. Wherefore Abner with the hinder end of the spear smote him under the 5th rib, that the spear came out behind him, and he fell down there and died in that same place.
The spear came through the front part of his body, through the back of his body. You know how much force and pressure it takes for a man to force a spear through your body like that? Killed him. I mean, it was either Abner killing Aziel or Aziel killing Abner. I mean, it was at that point. Read.
And it came to pass that as many as came to the place where Aziel fell down and died stood still. Joab also and Abishai pursued after Abner, and the sun went down when they were come to the hill of Ammonah, and lieth before Giah, by the way of the wilderness in Gibeon. And the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner, and became one troop, and stood on top of an hill. Read. Then Abner called to Joab and said, shall the sword devour forever?
He's saying, should you pursue me forever? Should you want your revenge against me forever? That's what it means by the sword devour forever. Do you gonna hold this against me forever? It's what he's asking Joab. Read.
Knowest thou not that it will be bitterness in the latter end?
So Abner's telling him, you holding this grudge against me is going to be bitter. Read.
How long shall it be then? Ere thou bid the people return from following their brethren? And Joab said, as God liveth, unless thou hadst spoken, surely then in the morning the people had gone up, every one following his brother.
Read.
So Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still, and pursued after Israel no more, neither fought they any more. And Abner and his men walked all that night through the plain, and passed over Jordan, and went through all Bithron, and they came to Mahanaim.
So where they came from? They went back to where they was from. Read.
And Joab returned from following Abner, and when he gathered all the people together, there lacked of David's service 19 men and Aziel.
20 men died in this fight, including Aziel. Read.
But the service of David has men of Benjamin and Abner's men, so that 360 men died.
360 men. How many men is that? Anybody know? What's up? Go ahead, Jan. 360 men. 303 score men. 360 men. So Joab's army killed 360 men. Abner's men only killed 20, including his brother. Read.
And they took up Aziel and buried him in the sepulchre of his father, which was in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at break of day.
They came back to Hebron. That's where King David's reigning now. They went back to, basically, I guess, the fort, if you will. First give me Proverbs chapter 24, verse 29. So Joab lost his youngest brother. His baby brother died. Whose fault was it? Was it Abner's fault that his baby brother died, or was it Aziel's fault that he died? It was his fault. He out here game banging, right? He out here throwing up his set in the club, knowing that the opposite set is in the club. Lil John come on and he want to throw his set in the other person's face, and they kill him. Now you mad that he died, and you want to kill all the people that killed your brother. But your brother was not using wisdom in the first place. Abner gave him 3 opportunities to turn around. It's war. You coming after me to kill me, and I'm telling you to leave me alone. Now you die. Now I got to kill you. Joab couldn't let it go. Joab couldn't let it go. Read that.
Proverbs chapter 24, verse 29. Say not, I will do to him as he hath done to me. I will render to the man according to his work.
That's called tit for tat. I'm going to do to him what he did to me. That's not righteous. It's not righteous. He stepped on my shoe, I'm going to step on his shoe. He killed my brother, I'm going to kill him. That's a grudge. That's vengeance. Give me 2 Samuel chapter 3. We're going to read from verse 6 to 39. I told you we was going to do some reading today. Told you. Come on.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 3 and verse 6. And it came to pass, while there was a war between the house of Saul and of the house of David, that Abner made himself strong for the house of Saul. And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, and the daughter of Aiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine?
Okay. So Ishbosheth, the king, Saul's son, went to Abner and said, you sleeping with my father's concubine. Why are you sleeping with my father's concubine? An accusation. Read.
Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Ishbosheth.
So Abner's mad, pissed off because of this accusation. Read.
And said, am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father, to his brethren, and to his friends, and have not delivered thee into the hand of David, that thou chargest me today with a fault concerning this woman?
So he's saying, I'm fighting for you and your household. I could have delivered you to David. You could be under David's hand right now. As you see me fighting for you, you think I would sleep with this woman? I'm taking care of your family. I'm taking care of your friends. I'm taking care of everything pertaining to you. And you think I'm going to sleep with one of your father's concubines? Abner was a righteous man. This is the point, right? So keep reading.
So do God to Abner, and more also, except as the Lord have sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan even to Beersheba. And he could not answer Abner a word again, because he feared him.
Abner, think about it. He's a general. He's scary as hell. Think about it. You just accused him of adultery with one of your father's concubines, and he just railed on you. Ishbosheth didn't want to say nothing else to this man. Read.
And Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf, saying, whose is the land? Saying also, make thy league with me, and behold, my hand shall be with thee, to bring about all Israel unto thee.
So now Abner is flipping on Ishbosheth with David. He's flipping. Read.
And he said, well, I will make a league with thee, but one thing I require of thee, that is, thou shalt not see my face, except thou first bring Michael, Saul's daughter, when thou comest to see my face.
So David says, you can't come see me, Abner, face to face, until you bring me Michael, my daughter, Saul's daughter, David's wife. This was the one that David killed the Philistines for. She is still in the house of Saul right now. Read.
And David sent messengers to Saul's son, saying, deliver me my wife Michael, which I espoused to me for 100 foreskins of the Philistines.
That was the dowry that Saul made David pay for Michael's hand in marriage. That was in 1 Samuel. But Saul did it to have David killed. He didn't think David could do it. David did it. So, read on.
And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, even from Phatiel?
Yeah, Phatiel,
the son of Laish.
So, this is how wicked Saul was. Saul didn't give Michael to David. You remember, Michael helped David escape. He married Michael to a man named Phatiel. So David, it's supposed to be David's wife, but he married her off to another man because he hated David that much. So David's asking for her. David doesn't know that she's married to another man, but he's asking, bring me my wife. So they went to Phatiel. That's who she's married to. Told her, come on, read, verse 16.
And her husband went with her along weeping, behind her to Bahurim.
The man weeping, the man crying.
Then said Abner unto him, Go, return. And he returned.
Take your ass back home. That's what he told him. Take your tail back home. You crying after this woman. She ain't yours no more. Get over it.
And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel, saying, Ye sought for David in times past to be king over you. Now then do it. For the Lord has spoken of David, saying, By the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel out of the hand of the Philistines, and out of the hand of all their enemies. And Abner also spake in the ears of Benjamin. And Abner went also to speak in the ears of David in Hebron. And all that seemed good to Israel, and that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin.
So not only did he take Michael's wife, he also told the Benjamites that's under Saul's son to follow David. Read.
So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him. And David made Abner the men that were with him a feast.
A feast, right. So they ate. They came in peace. Read.
And Abner said unto David, I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel unto my lord the king, and that they might make a league with thee, and that thou mayest reign over all that thine heart desireth. And David sent Abner away, and he went in peace.
So Abner came, paid respect to David, told him that I'm going to get all tribes to follow you, David. David saluted him, let him go in peace. Read the next verse.
And behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop, and brought in a great spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron.
So Joab comes after destroying a troop, with an army, and pillaging them. Spoil means taking their goods, taking their armor, taking their things. Then he comes back. Read.
For he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace.
So by the time Joab got back, Abner was already gone. Read.
When Joab and all the host was with him were to come, they told Joab, saying, Abner, the son of Ner, come to the king, and he hath sent him away, and he is gone in peace.
This is how you know this is black people. You could already tell the conversation. Hey, Joab, bro, you just missed it. Abner was just here, bro. Abner was just here. You just missed him. Read.
Then Joab came to the king and said, What hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away, and he is quite gone?
Yeah, why'd you send him away? Why didn't you kill him? Why didn't you put him in jail? Why didn't you arrest him? Don't you know that's the enemy? That's what he's talking. That's what he's talking. Telling David. Read.
Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know that all thou doest.
So you see the wickedness already planted in Joab's mind about Abner? Give me Leviticus chapter 19. You know what I want? Actually, no grudge. 19:18, I think. 19:17.
Yeah. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19 and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him.
Read.
Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people.
That's what he's doing. He's holding a grudge against Abner for the slaying of his brother. Nowhere in the scriptures it said Abner came to deceive David. Abner came in peace to David and did what he said to David he was going to do. He was going to bring the rest of the children of Israel under David as king. He didn't come to deceive David at all. But in Joab's mind, read that again.
Leviticus
19:18.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19 and verse 18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
He couldn't do that. He couldn't do it. Read. Go back. Read verse 25 again.
2 Samuel chapter 4 and verse 25.
3
and 25, I'm sorry. Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest.
Read.
And when Joab was come out from David,
So watch this. I want you to also understand this too. When they was at battle before Aziel died, they had respect for each other. Abner and Joab respected each other because they sat in front of each other at the pool and said, let the young men fight. We ain't gonna fight. You get 12 men, I get 12 men. Whoever win the battle, win the battle. Abner lost the battle. He left in peace. Aziel took it upon himself to try to make a name for himself and tried to pursue after Abner that led him to his death. Now Joab is thinking all evil about Abner. Read verse 26.
Verse 26. And when Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sarai. And David knew it not.
So Joab sent messengers to Abner for what purpose? To bring him back. To disguise the fact that, think about it, David don't know. So he said, yeah, David needs you. David wants you back. David has something to say to you. Read.
Verse 27. And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly.
So the gate is at the front or the entrance of the city. This is where they're at. Right out front. Read.
And smote him there under the fifth rib.
Under the what?
Fifth rib.
Read.
That he died for the blood of Aziel, his brother.
He smote him in the exact same place that Abner killed his brother. Go to Proverbs 24:29 again. He took it upon himself to kill Abner and kill him in the same place in the body where Aziel got killed. So think about, what was he meditating on all the way up to this point? I'm going to kill him the same way he killed my brother. What does the scripture say? Read that.
Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 29. Say not, I will do so to him as he have done to me. I will render to the man according to his work.
I'm going to do exactly what he did to me. That's wickedness. Go back. 2 Samuel.
This is 2 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 27.
Yep.
And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly and smote him there under the fifth rib, that he died for the blood of Aziel, his brother.
This is black people.
Man.
This is black people. Judah, to be exact. Joab is Judah. This is what Judah do. Look at our neighborhoods now. We got gang members doing, this is called retaliation. This is classic retaliation. You kill him, so I got to kill him. Then you got to kill him because I killed them. And it's a never-ending cycle. You were reading it in the Bible. These are our forefathers. Read.
And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever from the blood of Abner, the son of Ner.
He said, I ain't got nothing to do with this. I want Benjamin and the rest of Israel to know I had nothing to do with this. I sent him away in peace. Joab was underhanded, was grimy. He sent that message. I had nothing to do with it. Read.
Let it rest on the head of Joab and on all his father's house, and let there not fail from the house of Joab one that hath an issue, or that is a leper, or that leaneth on a staff, or that falleth on the sword, or that lacketh bread.
He said, let there be a leper. Let there be a white man. Let me understand. Let them come out albino. Let the man lean on a sword, being disabled, meaning, something wrong with their legs. Let one fall from the sword. Let them be killed, or let them be poor. Let them lack of bread. Let them be poor. This is what the judgment that David put on the house of Joab for killing Abner. Read.
So Joab and Abishai, his brother, slew Abner, because he have slain their brother Aziel at Gibeon in the battle.
That goes to show you that Abishai was there too. They tag teamed him. They jumped him, basically. Abishai probably held him He's like, let me get him under the fifth rib. 1, 2, 3. Hold him. Hold him. Read.
And David said to Joab and to all the people that were with him, rend your clothes and gird you with sackcloth and mourn before Abner. And King David himself followed the bier.
The bed, meaning like the coffin, to put it in another word. Because now they're burying Abner. You know, they didn't wait days like black people wait today. You dead, they put you in the ground. But keep reading.
And they buried Abner in Hebron. And the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner. And all the people wept.
Why was they weeping for Abner? Abner was a valiant man. In the time of Saul the king, he was the general of the army. Abner took David's position after Saul tried to kill him. Because David was the general of the army. Saul hated David, pushed him out. Abner took that role. And Abner fulfilled that role. Abner kept the commandments. You see what I'm saying? They were enemies, but yet they were still brothers. That's why there was a camaraderie between Joab and Abner. He respected Abner. You're a general, I'm a general. Abner respected him as a general. That's why he said, let these young men fight, while we sit back and watch them. But all that went out the window when Azael died.
Of his own.
These is David's nephews, by the way. I hope y'all understand this. Joab and Abishai is David's blood nephews doing this. Read.
And the king lamented over Abner and said, dieth Abner as a fool dieth. Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put in the feathers. But a man falleth before the wicked man, so fallest thou. And all the people wept again over him. And when all the people came to cause David to eat meat while it was yet day, David swore, saying, so do God to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else, till the sun be down.
King David's fasting for the death of Abner. He's fasting. That also goes to show you that sundown is the end of the day. Cut. Read.
And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatsoever the king did pleased all the people.
Because he also showed that he had nothing to do with Abner's death. Read.
For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it was not of the king to slay Abner, the son of Ner.
So everybody understood that the reason why Abner died, it was not King David's fault. Read.
And the king said unto his servants, know ye not that there is a prince? No, there is a prince and a great man falleth this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king. And those men and the sons of Zariah be too hard for me. The Lord shall reward the doer of the evil according to his wickedness.
He said that the sons of Zariah is too hard for me. They too cold-hearted. They too ruthless for me. Savages. And he said that the doer of evil according to his wickedness. So he's going to have a judgment behind this. He didn't die immediately, like he would have died immediately in other times. Go to Psalms 37 and 8. He's the general of the army. If he was put to death, then who's going to lead the army? I would figure that was the reason why he wasn't put to death immediately by the elders of Israel at this time. Read Psalms 37 and 8.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 8. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth.
Think about it. If Azael was put to death wrongfully, a judgment would have happened to Abner. Right or wrong? Read Psalms 37 and 8 again.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 8. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil.
He didn't follow that. He couldn't let it go. So we're going to read about the wickedness of Joab going further. Joab turned to be a cold-hearted killer Give me 2 Samuel 11. So he's already killed Abner, the man who killed his brother. He already killed him. You would think, okay, yeah, let me get my act together. Let me get my stuff together, right? We read about when King David wanted him to do something wicked. He didn't follow his commands all the way because he knew that it was wicked to number the people of Israel. But read 11 and 13, excuse me. 2 Samuel 11 and 13.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 11 and verse 13. And when David had called him and did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk.
So this is King David calling Uriah after sleeping with Uriah's wife back from battle to get eating drunk so he could go into his wife. Read.
And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his Lord, and went not down to his house. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter saying, set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die.
So the letter basically said, put him in the front of the hardest battle and call all the troops back and let him fight for himself until he die. Read.
And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah into a place where he knew the valiant men were. And the men of the city... The
valiant men are the mighty men, by the way. Uriah was numbered in the number of the mighty men. Read.
And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab. And there fell some of the people of the servants of David. And Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, when thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if so be the king's wrath arise, and he say unto thee, wherefore approach ye so nigh unto the city you did fight? Knew ye not that they would shoot from the wall? Who smote Abimelech, the son of Jerubbasheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of millstone upon him from the wall, that he died in the beds?
So a woman killed this man. She threw a rock from a window. Read.
Why went ye nigh the wall? Then say thou, thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So
he sent a message telling them that basically I carried out the hit. Uriah is dead. Give me 2 Samuel 18. So we reading about Joab's killing sprees. Now you remember, Joab did not number the children of Benjamin and I believe the children of Judah so that he wouldn't give the accurate number of children of Israel to David, because that was wicked to him. That was a sin. But this one, okay, yeah, you want him dead? Cool. I'll kill him. Read this one.
2 Samuel chapter 18 and verse 5. And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom.
So David said, deal gently with my son Absalom. Even though Absalom is fighting against David right now, David said, just deal gently with my son. Read.
And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absalom.
Everybody heard this charge. This is a commandment by the king. Don't hurt my son Absalom. Read.
So the people went out into the battle against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim, where the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David. And there was a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men. For the battle was there scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured.
The wood devoured meaning, you think about it, you're in the woods with horses, you in the woods running through woods. Branches is tearing these brothers up, poking them in the eye, messing up their vision, and of course they're dying due to not being able to really fight like that. Think about that. You in the woods swinging a sword. Your sword getting caught on the tree. Somebody stab you. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep reading.
And Absalom met the servants of David. And Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away.
His hair got caught. If you know anything about Absalom, Absalom had to cut his hair once, like he cut his hair once a year because the weight of his hair was heavy, meaning he had a real big afro. So him going through these oaks on a mule, he got stuck by his hair. Read.
And a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak. And Joab said unto the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, and why didst thou not smite him there to the ground? And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle.
Joab, somebody told Joab, hey, man, Absalom over there hanging in a tree, man. He said, well, okay, you telling me why'd you kill him? I would have gave you money and a garment. You should have killed him. What are you telling me for? You should put him to death. Read.
And the man said unto Joab, Though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in mine hand, yet would I not put forth mine hand against the king's son.
He says, you could have paid me 10,000. I ain't killing King David's son. Read.
For in our hearing the king charged these saying.
He said, I heard what King David said. He said, read.
Abishai and Ittai saying, Beware that none touches the young man Absalom.
I heard him tell you not to kill him. Read.
Otherwise I should have wrought falsehood against mine own life.
He said, if I kill him, they gonna kill me.
For there is no matter hid from the king, and thou thyself wouldst have set thyself against me.
He said, that's what he said. He said, if I would have killed him and told you I killed him, you would have been ordered to kill me. Read.
Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak.
So he's still hanging from the oak. He threw 3 darts through his heart. Through his heart. Darts are like little spears, by the way. Nope, TV's on. Okay, go ahead.
Keep going.
Keep reading.
And 10 young men that bare Joab's armor compassed about and smote Absalom and slew him. And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the wood, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled every one to his tent.
Is that how we buried our people back then? No, they threw them in a ditch and threw rocks on them. That's hatred. This is the hatred that this man has. He can't kill King David. I kill his son, though, due to the fact of what we just read about Abner, King David making a league with Abner. Read.
Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and reared up himself a pillar, which is in the king's dale. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own name. And it is called unto this day Absalom's place.
Keep reading.
Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, let me now run and bear the king's tidings, how that the Lord hath avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said unto him, Thou shalt not bear tidings this day, but thou shalt bear tidings another day. But this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. Then said Joab to Cushai, Go tell the king what thou hast seen. And Cushai bowed himself unto Joab and ran. Okay.
So that's the death of Absalom. Give me 2 Samuel. This man went on a killing spree, y'all. 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 1. The point is, he couldn't let it go. He did all things in decency and order at first until his brother Azazel got killed. And then it's just like, madman. Read 20 and 1. We're going down to 12.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 20 and verse 1. And there happened to be there a man of Belial, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bishri, a Benjamite.
So this man was the devil. This man was wicked as hell. Read.
And he blew a trumpet and said, we have no part in David, neither have we inheritance of the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel. So every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, the son of Bishrai. But the men of Judah clave unto their king from Jordan even unto Jerusalem.
So at this time, David almost has the full Israel in his command. And just like in times past, the man would rise up, wicked as hell, and deceive the people to follow him. This guy Sheba. Read.
And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and put them inward and fed them, but went not in unto them. So they were shut up unto the day of their death, living in widowhood.
Damn.
Then said the king to Amasa.
I hope y'all understood that means he never slept with them again until they died. Or he died. Whether that still means that he didn't sex them anymore until he died. Read. Or they died. Read.
Then said the king to Amasa, assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed unto them.
So he's being lazy. He's not doing what King David had him do. He's supposed to be the messenger to get all the men of war up. Taking his time. Read.
And David said to Abishai, now shall Sheba the son of Bishra do us more harm than did Absalom. Take thou thy Lord's servants and pursue after him, lest he get him fenced cities and escape us. And there went out after him Joab's men, and
Cherethites,
Sherethites, and Perethites, and all the mighty men that they went out of Jerusalem and pursued after Sheba, the son of Bishrai.
So it was supposed to be a war, of course. Amasa, the messenger, taking his time. So he sent Abishai and his men after Sheba. That's what's going on right now. Read verse 8.
When they were at a great stone, which is in Gibeon, Amasa went before them, and Joab's garment that he had put on girded unto him, and upon a girdle with a sword fastened upon his loins, and the sheath thereof. And as he went forth, it fell out.
So Joab sees Amasa in Gibeon, and he had a sword, and it fell out from beside him. Read.
And Joab said to Amasa, art thou in health, my brother? But Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand to kiss him.
So he's read. So this would be like the Will Smith situation with Chris Rock. This is what is happening. He walks up to Amasa, and Amasa is not on guard because just like Chris Rock thought, he thought, Will Smith was coming up there to say something and give him a handshake. This is exactly what's happening. Read.
But Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand. So he smote him there within the fifth rib.
In the what?
Fifth rib.
You see his MO? You see his MO? He loves killing people, killing them in the fifth rib. He like that's his spot. Read.
Hold on, sorry.
Yes. This man, this is Joab has lost it.
And shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again, and he died. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued after.
So Amasa's bowels, he defecated on himself after the strike. Is what it's saying, and he died. Read.
So Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued after Sheba, the son of Bishri.
Keep reading.
And one of Joab's men stood by him and said, he that favors Joab, and after he that is David, let him go after Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field, and cast a cloth upon him, when he saw that every one that came by him stood still.
Because they just left him there. They killed him and left him in the highway. Left him in the street.
When he was removed out of the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bishrai.
Okay. Give me his judgment. Proverbs chapter 6. He couldn't let it go. And there be many of us when we holding a grudge. Even after the person that we had a grudge against is gone, not even dead, but just gone about their business, we still holding a grudge. We could say, yeah, we squashed it. They don't think it's a problem, but we still holding the grudge. This is a horrendous story about that. I hope there ain't no brother in Israel killing people like that right now. But read.
Proverbs chapter 6 and verse
16.
These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him.
Read.
A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood.
And that was Joab's problem. That is an abomination to God. God hates that. Yes, sir. A proud look would be, you know how somebody thinks they're better than everybody? You know? And out of righteousness, like, how can I say it? Lil Wayne, I mean, you think he's better than everybody. You niggas is just, I'm great. Y'all, and it's in wickedness. A proud look is being wicked and being, I guess, the lack of a better word, happy in it. Right. Happy to be wicked. Like, hey, I'll tell you to keep the commandments. Oh, shit, you got to keep that. Look at you keeping the commandments. Look at your righteous-looking ass. That's a proud look. That's your Christian pastors today, too. Read it again.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 6 and verse 16. These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood.
Okay. Give me 1 Kings 1. Let's see who could tell me how Joab ended up? He had a terrible death. We're going to read it. He had a terrible death.
He had to.
He had a terrible death. Read that.
We're going to start
1 Kings chapter 1, verse 7.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 1 and verse 7. And
the point is, you're not going to get rewarded for doing wickedness, y'all. And even if you think you escape it. He thought he escaped it. King David, he outlived King David. Of course, he was younger than King David, but he thought he was going to die as an old man.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 1 and verse 7.
Come on.
And he conferred with Joab, the son of
Zariah,
and with Abiathar, the priest, and they followed Abijah, helped him. But Zadok, the priest of Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shemiel, and Shemaiah, and Reiah,
yep,
and the mighty men that which belonged to David were not with Abijah. Right?
Great. Adonijah. You can say
and Adonijah slew
keep reading.
Slew sheep and oxen with fat cattle by the stone of Zohetha, which is in Rogel, and call all his brethren the king's sons, and all the men of Judah the king's servants.
This man Adonijah tried to take the kingdom after David died, which we all know is supposed to go to Solomon. So this is what it's talking about. Read.
But Nathan the prophet and Benaniah and the mighty men of Solomon his brother were called not. Wherefore Nathan spake unto Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, saying, Hast thou not heard that Abijah, the son of Haggaiah, doth reign, and David our Lord knoweth it not? So the point was, I'm sorry, I had you read extra, but the point was Joab sided with Adonijah. Go to 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 28. This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 2 and verse 28. Then Titus came to Joab, For Joab had turned after Abaniah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord and caught hold on the horns of the altar.
So he thought he could escape judgment by running, like, for example, the tabernacle is a holy place. He said, for sure nobody could kill me here. This is like the safe zone. You know what I'm saying? This is Switzerland. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to kill me here. It's like somebody killing you in a church. You know what I'm saying? That's what he thought. Read.
And it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord. And behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, saying, Go, fall upon him.
Kill him.
And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord and said unto him, Thus said the king, Come forth. And he said, Nay, I will die here.
Yeah, you want to kill me right here. I'm not leaving where I'm at. Read.
And Benaiah brought the king's word again, saying, Thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king said unto him, Do as he hath said, and fall upon him and bury him.
Kill him where he tells you to kill him. Read.
That thou mayest take away the innocent blood, which Joab shed from me, and from the house of my father.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord shall return his blood upon his own head.
So that lets you know that Joab never repented. As old as he was, think about it. Solomon is about to take the throne. David is on his deathbed, and this man is still acting like this. So this man is up there in age. We don't know exact age, but he up there in age. Read.
Verse 32. And the Lord shall return his blood into his own head, who fell upon two men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword. My father, David, not knowing thereof, to wit Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasai the son of
Jether,
captain of the host of Judah.
You see that? So that goes to show you those two men we read about. Read. He had to pay for the blood he killed. He'll pay for the blood for killing them. Read.
Their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever.
Damn.
But upon David, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne, shall there be peace forever from the Lord.
Damn. Read.
So Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up and fell upon him, and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. And the king put Benaiah the son of Jehoiada in his room over the host, and Zadok the priest did the king put in the room of Abiathar.
So Benaiah took Joab's position as general after killing him, and they buried him in his home. So give me Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. What can we glean from this? Of course, thou shalt not kill. I would hope that was like number one. But grudges, y'all. We can't hold grudges because grudges leads to murder. And what Christ said, if you hate a man in your heart, you've already killed him. You've already committed murder. Read that.
Colossians chapter 3 and verse
13.
This is the book of Colossians chapter 3 and verse 13.
Read.
Forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye.
We got to learn from that. Now, just imagine where Joab would be in the scriptures if he did that with Abner. His outcome and his house's outcome. Because think about it. The sins of his father carried on to his kids forever. Like David said, let there not be a leper, a person leaning on a staff, someone of his kids lacking bread. So he said he wished whiteness on them. He wished disabilities upon them. And he wished poorness upon them throughout their generations. And that's the curse on his children until this day. Forever is forever. Forever, ever? Forever, ever. You see one of them Edomites, you think it's an Edomite. Nah, that's one of Joab's descendants. You wonder why he act black, he in a gang. What's white dude doing in the gang? And he ride, he so hard, he love killing. He the hardest boy in the set. Yeah, it might be one of Joab's kids.
Oh, man.
Who knows? I never understood why, white boys would want to join gangs and want to do all of that. Well, it makes sense. Look at Joab. He said his sons were going to be lepers. We all know leprosy is the absence of pigment, so they're going to look like white boys.
And be broke as hell.
And broke as hell, living where? Where we live.
And disabled.
And some of them disabled, right. Got a handicap. Read that again.
This is the book of Colossians, chapter 3, and verse 13.
I seen a Vlad interview of this white boy that just got out of prison for 30 years. He was a Crip, white boy Crip. And he had like a gimp leg. Like one leg was bigger than the other, but he was a Crip. It got me thinking, maybe? No, I'm joking.
Colossians chapter 3 and verse 13.
Read.
Forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye.
We gotta practice forgiveness, y'all, because we all should be dead, honestly. Without the grace of Christ, we all should be dead. We've done something worthy of death. We have offended. So, in this truth, we're going to be offended by our brothers. We're going to be offended by our sisters. You gotta let it go. You got to find some form of reconciliation, because the grudge could lead into things like this. Give me Luke chapter 6, verse 36. Before. It was established in Leviticus 23. Yeah, he went through that many Day of Atonements. He went through that many sacrifices and still got it wrong. Still holding the grudge.
That's wild. This is the book of Luke, chapter 6 and verse 36. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful.
In this truth, you're going to get wrong. But you know how they say, you got to be the bigger man? Sometimes you just got to be the bigger man. Sometimes a person ain't going to see that they did you wrong. But you still got to forgive that brother. You still got to forgive that sister. Because what did Christ say? Read that again.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 6 and verse 36. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful.
Because without that mercy, that strife is going to come. That anger is going to come. That sense of murder is going to come. Well, I'm not going to say you're going to pull the trigger on a brother. But you having hatred and an evil eye towards your brother, first, that's what Joab had first for Abner before he ever killed him. Because he said, Joab came here to deceive you. He came here to lie to you. There's nothing good in him. Go ahead.
But it's just like you said. He may not pull the trigger, throw the spear, or whatever the case may be. But hatred for your brother is all the same. Mm-hmm. Me hating you or having hatred in my heart towards you is the same thing as murder.
And then you not getting the kingdom. It's just like being killed on the altar, being stabbed up. I'm sorry. It's the same thing to me. If you don't get the kingdom, you're going to be in torments. You're going to feel death. You're going to feel pain after death. I don't want that. Do you want that? Right. No, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
But that's all I got for y'all tonight, y'all. Shalom. Most High Christ bless.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.